I mean, it was a shock, but it wasn't the first person I found out that he was messing around with.
It was shocking, to be sure, but it wasn't the first person I discovered he was playing around with. From the infamous B.I.G. Wyclef Jean, whose affair is said to have caused the Fugees to split up, Dr. Dre, whose claimed mistresses were brought before the court and whose side chick attended his own wedding. These rappers were exposed in the most startling ways. The toughest hitter in Brooklyn, the notorious B.I.G., wasn't only playing the rap game. The man was a husband who was unable to focus on a single woman with his hands, eyes, or anything else. 8 or 9 days after meeting at a Bad Boy picture shoot in 1994, Christopher Wallace married R&B diva Faith Evans. They moved far too quickly, as the world would eventually notice. C is their seed. When Jay Wallace arrived in October 1996, the marriage was already in ruins. Biggie's infidelity with Lil' Kim was the worst-kept secret in hip-hop. When Big saw adolescent Kim spitting bars in Brooklyn in 1993, that's when their relationship began. Mentor and mentee energy quickly turned into something much more serious. Big was already deeply involved with Kim when he walked down the aisle with Faith, and that situationship would last for around 3 years. Even Big and Faith's wedding was attended by Lil' Kim. Wild, huh? Eventually, Faith caught on, but not in the way that most wives do. She spoke about his and my connection on the radio, which is how I even began to doubt them. It was the radio interview that exposed the entire situation. Big's whole Faith said, was to refrain from discussing his ladies. Alarms were raised as soon as they heard Kim brazenly running her mouth on air. It was shocking, to be sure, but it wasn't the first person I discovered he was playing around with. Faith described to the world in her novel, Keep the Faith, how she entered Big's bedroom and discovered Kim naked. She acknowledged that she had thrown hands with some of his side parts, including beating Kim while she was 8 months pregnant. In order to redirect behind him and catch him yelling at other girls, she even taught herself how to identify phone call tones. She highlighted Big's candor in a Vibe interview, claiming that when she addressed him directly, he wouldn't even lie. Kim wasn't the only person in rotation, either. Big began experimenting with rapper Charlie Baltimore in 1995, and that relationship continued until the night of his murder in March 1997. According to reports, Lil' Kim ended a pregnancy while they were dating, and when she arrived at his funeral, people heard her refer to Big as "my man." Decades later, Faith and Kim reconciled, even collaborating on the song Loving You for Life in 2017. The battle was ultimately put down by two queens who shared a love for the same monarch. However, the next rapper's story dragged itself through courtrooms and divorce paperwork, while Big's circumstances unfolded in Brooklyn lofts and on radio waves. With the weight of a king and the musical habits of a corner boy, Nas Queensbridge's golden child entered his marriage to R&B sensation Khalees. They got together in 2002, were married in January 2005, and had a son named Knight in 2009. The old girl filed for divorce in April of that year, when she was 7 months pregnant. She gave the public a straightforward explanation. Her man had been sneaking around for 2 years. However, Khalees revealed something shocking in that iconic Hollywood Unlocked interview that completely changed the story. At that moment, I was covered in bruises. She claimed that her dipping wasn't primarily caused by adultery. After that, I stayed for years. And simply keep going. Khalees described the infidelity as the straw that broke the camel's back and depicted the marriage as mentally and physically poisonous. She claimed that Nas was blacking out and twisting off the bottle. She claimed that things got so awful that she likened her circumstances to Rihanna's encounter with Chris Brown. Back then, she considered speaking up but refrained from doing so. On his end, Nas acknowledged his role in the problem. His album Life is Good from 2012 was essentially one lengthy confessional. Khalees's wedding gown was even spread out over her lap on the cover. He kept it a buck in one interview. I wasn't the most faithful husband. I was immature. The biggest lesson I learned is respect, trust, and no infidelity. At some point I got pissed off during the relationship and strayed, and I wouldn't do that again. He was rapping about not paying child support and alimony while thinking about having extramarital affairs. His finances were also impacted by the divorce. Nas was required by court rulings to pay between 40 and 52 stacks every month in support, which subsequently decreased to about 25. Khalees remarried and began pursuing her passion for food. Nas continued to amass his legacy, but what actually transpired in private? That remains one of the most significant chapters in hip-hop. If Nas's story demonstrated how a marriage collapses on the courtroom floor, this following one illustrates what happens when a couple manages to survive decade after decade despite making the same faults. Dog Snoop. The Dogfather used gas, charisma, and one of the longest celebrity runs in hip-hop history to build an empire. Calvin Broadus and Shantae Taylor, his high school sweetheart, began dating in the late 1980s. They got married on June 14, 1997, and had 3 children together, Cord, Cordell, and Corey. Snoop's own acknowledged dirt has repeatedly put that love to the test over the course of more than 35 years. The first major mishap occurred almost immediately following the wedding. Snoop and Lori Hellman have a baby named Julian Broadus in June of 1998. Yes, it is correct. In the first year of their marriage, Julian became pregnant. You already know that the suffering Shantae endured at the time was insane, but Snoop has owned Julian as his kid, and the family has gradually come to terms with that fact. The dirt had gotten so bad by 2004 that Shantae sought divorce. In 2008, they underwent counseling, completed the work, and publicly renewed their vows. Shantae has been Snoop's rock through all of his storms. She is simply my reality, my support system, my foundation, my backbone, and my other half when it comes to parenting. My other half of parenting is reality. For holding it down when he couldn't, he continued to give her flowers. She has always been the strongest to help me get back up when I've been at my musical lowest. But even after they reaffirmed those vows, the rumors haven't stopped. Instagram celebrity Selena Powell went all out in 2019 and 2020, sharing purported screenshots and information alleging she was having an affair with Unc. Then, in 2024, Shantae shared some mysterious content that hinted at cheating, such as a picture that said, "They never cheat with prettier." The public instantly reacted to that. Soon after, Snoop and Shantae became publicly together, but the cycle was evident. Snoop has acknowledged that being a young superstar with broads at every location made being faithful a battle he frequently caught L's in, reflecting on the pimp culture he was rolling with in his early bars and persona. Shantae has largely avoided the timeline, but she stated that she stayed in the trenches with him because of love, faith, and family. They are still together today, sharing family photos and navigating a marriage that is equal parts forgiveness and unadulterated love. This next story is about a marriage that ended in flames, fines, and full-fledged legal conflict, whereas Snoop's story is about surviving through reconciliation. Nicole Young was married to Dr. Dre Compton's billionaire blueprint for more than 24 years before filing for divorce in 2021, which resulted in one of the most costly and unsightly breakups in hip-hop history. In 1996, Andre Young wed Nicole, whose real name was Plotzker. Andre Young Jr., their son, was one of their 2 children, and daughter Truly Young, who sadly died in 2021. They appeared to the public to be an untouchable, extremely affluent power couple. According to Nicole, the story was very different behind the gates. Nicole's legal team listed 3 women they thought Dre had been having extramarital affairs with in divorce papers. Crystal Rogers, model and skincare entrepreneur Kylie Anderson, and singer Jillian Spear. Her group battled to remove all 3 of them. In the end, the judge decided to let it go. Nicole, Dr. Dre's estranged wife, won a legal battle when it was decided that she couldn't be deposed. The case underwent a significant change after that decision. In fact, one of the women's attorneys had filed a petition to trial in an attempt to get these subpoenas quashed. For attempting to prolong the procedure, Dre and the 3 women were fined a total of $10,000, with each woman having to pay $2,500. The most serious accusations were made against Kylie Anderson. Rumors that they had a kid together date back at least to 2013. According to a 2019 court document from a labor dispute regarding Anderson's tanning salon company, Anderson allegedly had a relationship with well-known rapper Dr. Dre, with whom she had a kid, and as a result, her employees had to sign strict secrecy agreements. Dre denied the existence of any such child, as well as the affair. With leaks, countersuits, music, and arguments about the prenup, which Nicole made every effort to end, the whole affair went on for years. After she filed documents he labeled fake, Dre severed all contact with her. Nicole's purse is reportedly worth between tens and hundreds of millions, although the exact amount is still up in the air. Dre has generally kept quiet about personal matters since surviving a brain aneurysm in 2021, concentrating on his legacy and well-being. This next rapper's alleged affair got buried in a diss tune that shook the entire culture, while Dre's issue unfolded in court records and depositions. The most significant rapper of his generation, Tupac Shakur, never married anyone, yet his romantic life was every bit as crazy as his music. Born Lesane Parish Crooks in East Harlem in 1971, Pac passed away at the age of 25, leaving behind a large number of high-profile incidents and rumors that continue to spark debate on the streets to this day. The most notorious was an alleged incident with Faith Evans. Yes, Big Spouse. According to reports, Pac and Faith ran into each other in Los Angeles in 1995. Later, Pac openly boasted on the 1996 diss track hit Up and stated in interviews that he had hit it as retaliation against Big. For almost 30 years, Faith Evans has denied that, calling it propaganda from the Cap and the Pure Coral era. He claims that nothing tangible has ever appeared after checking it on all platforms. However, that myth became hip-hop legend because Pac said it on the vinyl. Whitney Houston is the subject of the other Big Pac rumor. In his memoir, Every Little Step, Bobby Brown explicitly said that Whitney and Pac had a romantic and sexual relationship in the early years of their marriage. She had an affair with Tupac, which I am happy to discuss. Bobby claimed he was completely devastated by the news. During the early years of our marriage, when I believed we were in a good position, this happened. He said that they had a heated argument and that Whitney sobbed uncontrollably for days after Pac was shot in September 1996. For days, Whitney sobbed uncontrollably over his passing. Bobby learned everything he needed to know about his wife's true grief from those tears. I was hurt by her tears because I understood what they represented. My spouse was grieving the loss of a romantic partner. Whitney's close friends have mostly minimized the romantic aspect, portraying it as a close, respectful relationship. When Quincy Jones passed away, Pac was also momentarily engaged to Kidada Jones, his daughter. Even as an adult, his relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith remained exclusively platonic. Decades later, Pac's love legacy is a whirlwind of verified liaisons and ongoing accusations that continue to drive traffic to the comment area. If Pac's romantic relationships were brief, intense, and frequently contentious, this next rapper's marriage was the exact opposite: long, violent, and dysfunctional from the start. DMX, the Yonkers Dog's career was founded on unadulterated passion and spiritual agony, and his union with Tashara Simmons was a perfect reflection of that mentality. On August 1st, 1999, Earl Simmons and Tashara, who had been friends since childhood and were in love in high school, formally married. Xavier, Tacoma, Sean, and Praise Mary Ella are their 4 children. Depending on how you calculate the splits, the marriage lasted anywhere from 11 to 15 years, and X never claimed to be someone he wasn't. In an interview with Global Grind in 2012, X was candid. Since the beginning of their relationship, he had been sneaking up on Tashara, claiming that he was always the same guy and never concealed his identity. He was yelling on VH1's Couples Therapy that he would never stop playing around with other ladies, claiming maturity and unconcern. Tashara experienced every second of it and eventually shared with the world the true nature of those years. He knew he hadn't been treating me and the kids well, so he was undoubtedly anxious. She had struck her head on the wall. I'm worn out, but he's kept me modest for a very long time. I'm worn out. Tashara revealed the most agonizing detail in Vibe interviews, in my opinion. She eventually learned that X had at least 4 children fathered outside of the marriage that she was unaware of, but at first she only knew about 1. The mother began contacting her personally. She even described arriving at hotel rooms in other cities and discovering ladies lying in her bed. People from her own social circle were engaged in a few of those circumstances. Even at the age of 12, their son openly revealed that he had witnessed his father's infidelity, which left him bitter for years. X's drug struggles, his hectic schedule, and his numerous bids up north were all intertwined with the adultery. Tashara claimed that she stayed because he was her first love, because they had similar religious beliefs and musical tastes, and because she genuinely thought she could heal Earl, even though DMX was destroying everything. Their final serious attempt to make things right was couples therapy in 2012, but it failed. X had fathered between 15 and 17 children with various women by the time of his death. On April 9, 2021, DMX departed from this life. Through her works and new musings, Tisha has been candidly discussing healing, forgiveness, and ultimately living for herself. This following rapper's affair was sneakier, more sophisticated, and revealed by something far more contemporary, text messages, than X's adultery, which was loud, brazen, and unconcerned. Joe is overweight. The Bronx OG has spent decades cultivating a reputation for community pride, family devotion, and the true street code. After years of running together, Joseph and Lorena Cartagena were married in 1995. With two of his kids from past relationships, Joey and Ryan, as well as their daughter Azariah, who arrived between 2006 and 2007, they blended a family. They appeared to be unbreakable for 17 years, but in January 2012, everything began to fall apart in the blogs. After learning that Joe had been deeply involved in a year-long relationship with a 26-year-old Dubai girl living in Miami, rumors surfaced that Lorena had either filed for divorce or was at the very least moving on. She was called Miss Dubai by the locals. According to sources, Joe has been publicly spotted with her in various places, flying her to events, and taking her to parties. Someone close to the Terror Squad camp allegedly sent Lorena some text messages and pictures of Joe with the woman in compromising films, which is how Lorena supposedly got the whiff. Nor was the timing a coincidence. People near the camp claimed that Joe's recent weight loss of more than 100 pounds was related to his increased self-assurance. For months, the only topic the blogs wanted to write about was the divorce discussion, even though Joe didn't publicly co-sign the details at the time. Joe continues to talk about Lorena as if she were everything in recent interviews, even making jokes about how they moved. My wife and her friend's inability to know when to stop is the only issue I have with them. Correct? So it's over, my man. He now narrates those stories in a lighthearted manner. 10,000 you smoke everyone as if it were over. Have a party inside. Despite that storm in 2012, the couple seemed to have reunited. I thought, what? As of 2024, profiles continue to highlight them as married or in a long-term relationship that goes beyond 30 years. Since then, Joe has focused on his job, his businesses, and his family, keeping a lower profile on the personal issues. However, that Miss Dubai story remains in the books, serving as a reminder of how one phone full of receipts may test 17 years of loyalty. This next rapper's affair was made public by an album, which is even more permanent than the texts and photos that revealed Fat Joe's predicament. Gene Wyclef. Despite several acknowledged extramarital affairs, the Fugees' architect, who was born in Haiti, has been married to designer Marie Claudinette Jean since 1994. In the mid-1990s, they had a daughter, Angelina. Although Wyclef's worst betrayal affected more than just his wife, Claudinette is the epitome of ride or die. One of the finest hip-hop groups in history is said to have disbanded as a result. Wyclef delved deeply into his relationship with Lauryn Hill in his 2012 biography Purpose, An Immigrant Story. He was already committed to Claudinette when the two, in his own words, formed a true couple. The entire circumstance persisted throughout the score's recording and beyond. Lauryn and I were having an affair while I was married. However, he later dropped the statement that has been used in every barbershop ever since. I thought the baby was mine because of her. I was unable to overlook that. In the book, Wyclef said that after Lauryn gave birth to her son Zion in 1997, he believed the child was his. He referred to the discovery that the biological father was Rohan Marley as the betrayal that ended the Fugees personally and professionally. Wyclef attempted to record the apology in an interview years later. I'm sorry, am I correct? I obviously went on Hot 97. Do you get what I mean? I apologized to Lauryn Hill in public. He presented it as a way to wrap up his next chapter. It was crucial for me to get all that stuff out in order to move on from this chapter and into the next phase of my life. which is music. It simply made me feel better. Naturally, Lauryn had her own rendition. The miseducation of Lauryn Hill was interpreted by many fans as a clear reaction to Wyclef and the romance. Once you understood, songs like Lost Ones and X Factor had a different impact. Lauryn, however, was only one chapter. Wyclef acknowledged another incident involving his manager, Lisa Ellis, in 2010. Lisa was sacked after Claudinette allegedly discovered inappropriate images and messages on his devices. Later, Wyclef attested to it in his biography and interviews. In an attempt to publicly apologize, he even wrote a song titled "Cheated to All the Girls," in which he acknowledged his flaws and praised his wife's fortitude. Wyclef and Claudinette remained upright despite everything. This next rapper's marriage nearly ended due to an affair he didn't even commit, while Wyclef's circumstances caused one of hip-hop's best ensembles to dissolve. Ice-T. Since 2001, the original gangster rapper has maintained a relationship with model Coco Austin. They made it official in 2006, held a commitment ceremony in Vegas on New Year's Eve that year, and welcomed their daughter Chanel in 2015. On social media, they have become one of the most publicly loving couples in hip-hop. However, Ice-T had a long set of circumstances before Coco. The largest adultery scandal that occurred during his marriage to her completely changed the course of events. It was her, not him. Prior to Coco, Ice spent roughly 15 to 17 years in a committed relationship with Darlene Ortiz, sometimes known as his common-law wife. Tracy Merrow, Jr. was their son. Following that, Ice had a brief, well-publicized relationship with video starlet Karine Steffens from 1999 to 2000, which she subsequently included in her memoirs. But late 2012 was when things really got hot. Pictures of Coco seeming very comfortable with Oakland rapper AP appeared while she was in Vegas for her burlesque peep show run. 9. Kenneth Huddleston is his true name. Tight embraces and cheek kisses. Ice-T claimed on Twitter that the images were disrespectful and that they made him feel and look like a gentleman. AP, by saying on the radio that he and Coco had a sexual relationship for around a week and a half, 9 made things 10 times worse. When they questioned him, he wouldn't completely deny it. The culture had a lot to say. I have the utmost regard for Ice-T, but wow, that's the goddamn AP. 9 or anything. AP. 9. He was treating me disrespectfully, not Ice-T. The breakdown became rather critical of the way the entire situation appeared. You're all in the club, kissing her and putting your arms around her. She ought to have known better. He was not supposed to know any different. Coco labeled them a lousy choice for clout, apologized for the offensive photos, and disputed the entire affair. After surviving the hurricane, the pair has been together for more than 24 years. Ice has acknowledged that he wasn't always the most present parent during his prime, but the AP has children from past circumstances. No one in the culture anticipated the 9 episodes, which are the only significant infidelity controversies of their marriage. Our next rapper's marriage was put to the test by his own struggles with popularity, temptation, and a complete separation from his wife, much as Ice-T's marriage was put to the test by an outside force. Queensbridge, Mike Legend, LL Cool J, Simone Johnson, and James Todd Smith have been together since the late 1980s. They met while she was a teenager in 1987, dated intermittently for almost 8 years, and were married in 1995. Najee, Isaiah, Samaria, and Nina are their 4 children together. One of the oldest marriages in hip-hop history, it lasted more than 30 years. However, early on, following the birth of the second child, LL's dedication to the Playboy lifestyle and creeping caused a separation that nearly put a stop to the union. Between 1992 and 1994, LL was having a great time with Quincy Jones' daughter, actress and model Kid Ada Jones. The connection lasted for a few years and was made public. LL denied using her for industry plugs in his 1997 autobiography, I Make My Own Rules, claiming that he would have stayed with her if that were his motivation. When that breakup ended, LL unexpectedly pulled up to Simone's crib and asked for another shot. Somehow, she allowed him back in. In 1995, they tied the knot. Simone has been honest about how difficult it was to regain that trust. She described how reading a book completely changed her perspective on marriage. The Power of a Praying Wife is the book that his cousin Marion handed me. Everything changed because of the lessons she learned from it. the first thing I read in the book was that you need to transform yourself. It's about transforming oneself. No one can be changed by you. Your children are unchangeable. She acknowledged that she needed to focus on her own habits. But you can also raise your kids. Regarding oneself. Just as LL has been open about his struggles with fidelity, groupies, and the temptations that came with being famous, he is constantly flip-flopping, going off about this, and going, Over the years, there have been persistent, unverified tabloid reports of other slips. Compared to his predecessors, he has largely avoided talking about his personal life in order to maintain his reputation as a more responsible, family-oriented actor and artist. Simone and LL are commemorating more than 30 years of marriage today. He consistently attributes their family's stability to her strength. Hip-hop's modest success pattern, early infidelity, divorce, the strain of celebrity, and somehow a marriage that persevered through it all via faith, therapy, and personal development are all part of their narrative. I appreciate you watching. If you like this video, you can view more similar material by clicking on one of the boxes that are currently playing on your screen.